The United States has been taken advantage of for 40 years. The United States has been a laughingstock for years and years. That's why this gentleman is built in Taiwan instead of building here. It would have been better if he built here, if we had a president that knew what they were doing.
Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we're going to tackle a pretty provocative question.
Okay.
You ready for this? Could a certain former president be intentionally trying to crash the economy?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know it sounds a little bit out there, right?
Yeah.
But an article titled "Trump's Potential Economic Crash Strategy" is suggesting that this might be the case.
Okay.
Now, don't worry, we're not here to spread conspiracy theories or anything like that.
Yeah.
We just want to kind of break down the arguments, see if they hold water, and let you draw your own conclusions.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's start with the big why.
Right.
Why would someone want to tank the economy? What would be the motivation?
Well, the article suggests that this could be a pathway back to power.
Oh. Right.
The idea is to create a sense of widespread economic hardship, fuel discontent among voters, and then present yourself as the only one who can fix it.
So almost like
taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, taking advantage of the situation, playing on people's fears and anxieties.
Exactly.
It's cynical, but...
It's a cynical tactic.
It's a cynical tactic.
But it has been used before.
Oh, really? Are there any historical examples that come to mind?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Think about the Nazi Party in Germany.
Okay.
They leveraged the economic despair of the Weimar Republic.
Okay.
To gain support, they promised stability and scapegoated external forces for the crisis.
So it's like, almost like they find a common enemy.
Exactly.
And they say, hey, we're the ones to protect you from this enemy.
Precisely.
Wow. So it's a high-stakes gamble.
It is a high-stakes gamble.
But history shows that it can pay off.
It can pay off for those who are ruthless enough.
Wow, so how would this alleged strategy actually play out in practice?
Okay.
What actions are we talking about here?
The article highlights several economic decisions that could be interpreted as potentially destabilizing.
Okay.
For instance, it points to the imposition of tariffs on goods imported from China. This move, while intended to protect American businesses, also led to higher prices on consumer goods for, everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely noticed that things seem a bit more expensive these days.
Well, and that's, one of the potential consequences of these kinds of policies.
So it's like a ripple effect, right? It's not just affecting one sector.
Exactly. It's a ripple effect, and it can have unintended consequences.
It's interesting because some of these economic decisions, seem pretty risky.
Yeah.
Do you think they were intentionally designed to destabilize the economy? Or is there a more innocent explanation?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's important to remember that correlation doesn't equal causation.
Right.
Just because certain policies might have negative economic consequences doesn't necessarily mean they were implemented with that intention.
Okay, so it's not always black and white.
Right. It's rarely black and white when it comes to economics and politics.
Couldn't some argue that these policies were simply misguided attempts to boost the economy, rather than a deliberate strategy to sabotage it?
Precisely.
Okay.
Economists who subscribe to a more traditional school of thought might argue that these policies were implemented with the best of intentions, perhaps, to stimulate certain sectors or address perceived unfair trade practices.
Right.
They might also point to other contributing factors to economic downturns, such as global economic trends or unforeseen events, rather than attributing it to a deliberate strategy.
So many factors at play.
Exactly. It's a very complex system.
It is.
With a lot of moving parts.
Okay, so before we go any further, when we talk about an economic crash, what are we actually talking about?
That's a great question.
I think it's important to define our terms here.
Absolutely. When we talk about an economic crash, we're not just talking about a dip in the stock market.
Right.
We're talking about a severe and prolonged recession marked by widespread job losses, business failures, and a significant decline in economic output.
So it affects everyone.
It affects everyone. It's a scenario that can have a profound impact on everyone's daily lives.
Yes, definitely not something you'd want to see happen.
No, absolutely not.
But whether or not this theory of intentional economic sabotage holds up,
right,
I think it raises a bigger question.
Okay.
About the role of information in our political and economic landscape.
I completely agree with you.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides.
Yes.
And it's hard to know what to believe.
You're right.
And what to trust.
It raises an important question about the role of information and critical thinking in a democracy.
Yeah.
The potential for misinformation to be used as a political tool
Right.
is a very real concern. It underscores the importance of being discerning consumers of information, seeking out diverse perspectives, and evaluating sources critically.
Like really doing your own research.
Yeah,
not just taking things at face value.
You can't just accept things at face value, especially when it comes to something as complex and impactful as the economy.
Right, so we've got to do our own homework and think for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We started out by exploring this theory that a former president might be intentionally trying to crash the economy. We looked at the potential motivations,
Right.
the actions, and even some counter-arguments.
Yes.
But here's a final thought for you to chew on.
Okay.
Does this deep dive change how you view economic policy and political strategy? And more importantly, how do you plan to stay informed and make sense of this complex world around you? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.